Hi there. I've got a quick one today, and it's recapping some things I've talked about in the past about abstract versus concrete communications. That is the topic of interaction styles. I've covered this before, and just to recap quickly, it's an area that Dr. Linda Berens has researched in the past. Interaction styles to Dr. Berens is a separate thing from cognitive preferences and MBTI. However, certain camps have co-opted the idea that you can use interaction styles to represent MBTI. And one of the areas where things, I think, get shakiest is the difference between abstract versus concrete communications. The idea being that, in theory, if someone prefers abstract communications, then they are an intuitive. If they prefer concrete communications, then they are a sensor. Well, with this background, what I'd actually like to introduce is kind of an oddball thought. And that is, if we look at the way that, well, I'd like to challenge the way that we look at what is abstract versus what is concrete. And that is, the other day, there was a typing that was done using communication styles or interaction styles. And the person was asked, if you could live any place, where would you prefer to live? And after getting the clarification, does it have to be a real place or can it be someplace fictitious? Well, it could be anywhere. Fantasy, science fiction, real life, whatever. And the person answered that they would prefer to live in Gotham City and maybe be a sidekick to Batman or something along those lines. That was then used at the end of the typing to note a preference for abstraction, and that person was typed in intuitive. I'm not going to second guess what their type might be under other methodologies. This interaction style methodology comes out with these sorts of answers, and that's good for that approach. However, I would say that Gotham City is concrete, and New York City, to most people at least, is abstract. What I mean by that is that there is a body of work around Gotham City. That is, there's a set of many different movies, a television series, a century of comic books, and radio shows, fanfic, books. Basically, there's enough media around this to identify with the archetypes, to tell the stories of place, by get an idea of the environment, the ambiance, the people, the places, and there's the opportunity to become fully immersed in what is Gotham City. That makes it as real a place as any place can be. Now, if you contrast that with the way that most people would see New York City, especially if they've never been there, you might see an occasional documentary, maybe some YouTube video from someone who's in the city, but what you get are dreamlike fragments of maybe a documentary about the creation of the subways, or maybe something talking about housing prices there, but they're little snippets that don't tell the story of place. They don't generate the continuity of characters, of archetypes. There isn't the immersion that you have of real place. So New York City can take on sort of a dreamlike conceptual way of thinking about it, where places like Gotham or Hogwarts or trying to think of other places, the Star Trek universe, those are comparatively real places with real bodies of work in which one can get immersed. Game of Thrones, in that sense, is more concrete because there's 100 hours of television that one can sit down and see everything that happens in that place, the people, the places, the plot lines. It is concrete. Where Prague, haven't been to Prague, to me would be abstract because it's like, well, what do I know about that place? Not very much. So By the same token, I would look at what is real and what is imaginary, what is concrete, what is abstract, in the difference between real people that I've known and have lost touch with, and characters that I've played in tabletop role-playing games that are no longer active. And when we get down to that piece, there's a remarkable amount of similarity, kind of a scary amount of similarity between the depth of what these supposedly real people supply in terms of memories of our interactions and what that relationship was like, and these imaginary characters that I've created for the purposes of role-playing games that also I've had a relationship with and gotten to know them and understand them, and then have lost touch with them over time as campaigns wrap up. And clearly there's a difference that some of them have or most of those imaginary characters would have a propensity to violence, would wear funny clothes, superhero outfits, running around with medieval bladed instruments of war, that sort of thing, as opposed to the people that I've known here that I hope would be more fashion-forward, tastefully dressed, and have a lower propensity to violence. But if you put those two together, I've got characters that I've made up that I know their names, I know what they're like. I could even get down to the archetype and the MBTI type that they represent. And so they're these fictitious characters, but I could tell you about what they're like. And in a sense, they are as real as the real people, except that, I probably won't accidentally bump into them in the street someday, thus causing some period of awkwardness because we have been out of touch for a long time. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. It's just, again, how tricky it is to say whether something is abstract or concrete. These imaginary personas are concrete, or they could be as concrete to me as these real people with whom I've lost touch. The difference is in shades, and in both cases it's that they are only part of memory now, and therefore no longer exist in kind of the sphere of current events and ongoing relationships and influence. So that's all I've got. It is my ongoing skepticism on trying to type people on the basis of interaction styles. There is a correlation. I do firmly believe that there is something to it, just like there is something to Veltology. But there are also many perils and pitfalls in trying to use that as the principal tool to determine one's cognitive preferences. So with that, that's it for now. Hope that you're doing well wherever you may be. Bye for now.